end of lap 2, beginning of lap 3. His speed on the first lap was 103.926 officially. His speed on the second lap was 2 miles an hour faster, 105.47. We're halfway through the inland stretch approaching the south turn of his third and final lap of qualifying. Lynn Ivey at the wheel of Miss Seattle. There are 17 boats in all to qualify, and this will be the first one to attempt qualifying and might perhaps set the pace for the rest of the boats that will attempt to qualify later on today and for the rest of the week. And you'll see it live. You'll see it better, more completely on Channel 5. There's the first buoy turn now on the south part of the course. The second turn. And the third buoy. Now the fourth buoy. And the fifth and final buoy as he turns the boat out. And that rooster tail will kick high as Lynn Ivey attempts to come in over 100 miles an hour in order to qualify. It was his idea that you had to come in around 110 miles an hour on average, perhaps, just to be safe. And Ted Jones shares that feeling. All right, watch that rooster tail kick high as he gets into that backstretch going up toward the north turn of his third and final lap. The official time on that last lap was 105.551. We're a quarter of the way through the backstretch going into the north turn. Miss Seattle is halfway through the backstretch. He's three-quarters of the way through the backstretch. The boat is moving along very easily. There's the deceleration point for the north turn, so he starts to back off on it a little bit. I believe this lap wasn't quite as fast as the previous two. Maybe I'm wrong. The second buoy. The third buoy. The fourth buoy, and the checkered flag goes up. The fifth buoy, and he's straightened out. And here's the run for home to complete the 3 laps of qualifying for Miss Seattle, driven by Lynn Ivey. That's it. Miss Seattle becomes the first boat to attempt qualification for the Seafair Trophy race on next Sunday. Speed in the third and final lap, unofficially, was 100 miles an hour. We'll have the official qualification for you and the average speed in a very short while. Lynn Ivey, qualifying both the boat and himself, becomes the first to test the course out. Want to keep in mind that the slow motion 4 is sitting up there in the north turn, waiting her turn too, with Joe Taggart at the wheel. And the qualification for the boat is okay, and we'll have the word on whether or not Lynn qualifies as a driver in a very short while. For both boat and driver, he's okay. So there's your first successful attempt at qualifying. And the average speed, Lloyd Johnson will have it for us. The 3 laps included 103.85, 103.926 officially, 105.551, and 100.75 unofficially. We'll strike an average for you on that and give you the unofficial 3-lap average, and then they'll give us the official time from Andy Joy's timers over on the official barge in a very short while. That's the end of 2 laps of qualifying for the driver, Norm Evans, as the relief driver for Miss Seattle. The time trial that Miss Seattle put in the books earlier with Lynn Ivey at the wheel averaged out at 103.369 miles per hour. Average speed on the second lap for Norm Evans as relief driver, 110.5 miles an hour. That's an unofficial average. And he's now approaching the south turn of his third lap. There will be no change in the time trial speed of Miss Seattle, although Norm Evans obviously will come in at a speed much higher than that of Lynn Ivey when he qualified the boat earlier, some 1 hour ago. We're halfway through the south turn for Norm Evans, qualifying as a relief driver. There will be quite a few driver qualifications in which the boat will not enter into the matter at all. The driver must drive 3 times around the course and satisfy the driver's committee, not only out here on the course, but he must take a mental examination about driving, which is an oral examination. He also must pass a physical. We're a quarter of the way through the backstretch of his third and final lap. Norm Evans at the wheel of Miss Seattle, and the boat is really moving. The boat does show a definite tendency to kite. There's no doubt about that. That front end just really wants to lift and go. He's halfway through the back stretch. He's 3/4 of the way through the back stretch, and there's the boat up. And he almost lost it. And there once again, ladies and gentlemen, is that same driving characteristic that you find in when this boat was known as Slow Motion 5. That's exactly the same sort of a characteristic which started Lou Faggel in his past toward a flip. And speaking of Lou Fagel, of course, he will be a guest commentator on this station with the King Broadcasting crew on the day of the race and also during the week of time trials. This is Norm Evans, who did a wonderful job in holding that boat down and getting her back in the water, completing his third and final lap of his driver's qualification. And, brother, he really moved this boat. 1,000 feet from the finish. That's it. 3 laps of qualifying as a driver for Norm Evans. And he gave you quite a thrill over there on that far side with Bobby Coons on the camera this time. And the average speed on the last lap for Norm Evans as a driver, 2 minutes and 3 seconds, and that averaged out in miles per hour to 109.76. So unofficially, his first lap came in at 110.66, his second lap at 110.5, his third lap at 109.76. So the boat certainly shows the tremendous capabilities that we always knew the Slow Motion 5 possessed. And now known as Miss Seattle, she still has that same getaway, breakaway speed, but she also has that same tremendous desire to want to kite and lift and move out of fairly rough water and windy conditions here at Lake Washington. Hoo-wee, my mouth was in my throat. Here you get a close-up view of Norm Evans. Out of the course comes Gale 6, the twin-engine boat from Detroit, driven by Lee Shanis. A thrill a minute. Your official time on the first 2 laps for Norm Evans, 110.565, 110.929 for the second. We were waiting for the third. But the time trial turned in by Lynn Ivey at the wheel for Miss Seattle stands at 103.369. That's the one that she has to stand by in order to qualify as one of the 12 fastest boats.
Meet the Miss Seattle, a community-owned boat in the sense of the word that we have some 8 or 10 owners, a group of Seattle businessmen who a year or so ago decided that the Slow Motion 5 should be reestablished in racing form, should be renamed, and should be kept alive to advertise the wonders of the Pacific Northwest and specifically the field of unlimited hydroplane racing. All of this has come about in a short, less than 2 years. And we have one of those owners with us now. We're going to ask him to walk over here in front of the boat with us and to tell us something about the community ownership that we have on this boat. Jim Osland, you're the man that we've gone to more than once about what's going on with Miss Seattle. So tell me, how does this ownership setup work as far as you and these other members are concerned?
Well, Bill, it's a corporation. We incorporated under the state laws of Washington, and we run just like a corporation. We have the officers in the corporation, and they saw fit to elect me president, probably because I have more time or more interest. I don't know which, but...
Probably not more interest, but more time. I'll bet that.
Well, probably, but we get along very well together. I have to account to them, of course, for all the actions that we take in regards to the boat.
About a year, I can remember a year ago when you took over Slow Motion 5 from the late Stanley Sayers, and the boat was to be named Miss Seattle, and you had a group of, what is it, how many, 10 was it? 10, 12 men?
12 started.
Of that original 12, how many do you have left?
8.
And of that 8, do any of them actually work on the crew itself?
No, I'm the only guy that keeps hanging around. Sometimes they don't want me, but I'm here anyhow.
And then in the echelon of command, you have an actual crew in itself with a crew chief?
Right.
And they are not accountable to anyone except to you, and then you in turn are accountable to the rest of the owners.
That's correct, Bill.
If you have to decide upon whether or not you're going to wind up going somewhere to a race like Tahoe, how do you decide that?
Well, I generally let the boys know what the condition of the boat is, whether we're able to make a race, and recommend that we do or that we don't. And then the boys get together, that is the Rooster Tails, and decide whether we should go to a race or not. And they generally rely on my recommendations.
Do you feel, Jim, that this basic idea that you started out with a year ago to advertise the Pacific Northwest and to keep a boat with the name Seattle in the unlimited hydroplane field, do you think that it's worked out successfully for all concerned?
Oh, yes. It's publicized the city to a great extent, and it has kept the boat back in the racing circles. Hasn't done as well as we like, but we were green, and this year we're going to
You're
go
more
after
experienced and you're a little bit tougher. And speaking of being tougher, one of the reasons you're tougher is because Vern Smith spent all winter on that boat working over that decking. And also, I see two brand new engines over here in this shop that you have out in Aurora. Do you mind if I talk to Vern Smith about those and also about the boat?
Oh, Bill, go ahead. One thing I would like to say, though, is you talk about Vern Smith doing a great job. Bill, these guys have done a tremendous job. They've spent thousands of hours on this boat, and I just can't say too much about what a swell bunch of fellas they are to work with.
I can tell you right now that I had my first and only ride in this boat. I have a great deal of affection for it. Thank you very much, Jim.
You bet.
Gee, Al, if I could interrupt what you're doing here a moment to talk with you. This is Al Benson, one of the two drivers that we have for Miss Seattle. Al, how long have you been in this racing game?
Oh, about 20 years,
And
Bill.
how much of an opportunity have you had to use a boat like an Unlimited like Miss Seattle?
Well, not too much, but this year we've been doing pretty good with Miss Seattle.
Is there much difference in this type of racing as against the type that you've been ordinarily associated with?
Well, it's bigger and more horsepower and a lot more people in it.
Is the fundamental philosophy the same, though? Get down there and be first all the way around?
Well, that's the way we do it. We got to get there first and the fastest.
How do you feel about the boat now and the improvements that you've made over in the past 4 or 5 months?
Well, I think we found out the troubles in the boat. We may not have, we haven't cured them yet, but we know what's wrong, and we've got a lot of help now, and we're going to straighten them out and really make the boat go.
Sounds fairly optimistic. Let me see if your riding cohort over here, Chuck Hickling, feels the same way about it. Is this the brand new jacket you'll be wearing in the future when you're driving Miss Seattle?
Well, I'm going to use it quite a bit, I think, to use it on the little boat and the large boat, too, Bill.
Chuck, you speak of the little boat. I think you've had more experience in that direction, haven't you, than in these big ones?
Yes, I put in about 44 heats last year, and I guess about 6 or 7 so far this year.
What was your first reaction when you got out in this thing for the first time and had a chance all by yourself out there to find out about Unlimited racing?
Well, it reminded me of a cab of a locomotive, Bill. You look over the engine, and it's going one way, and the bow's going the other way, and they are a little slower acting, and they lay flat and hard on the water compared to the little boat. The little boats just fly along. You very seldom feel the water.
Comparatively speaking, then you think that this might be a little bit easier as far as the psychological aspect is concerned?
It is. It is easier. It's a lot more to it. There's a lot more boat and a lot more engine, a lot more weight. And, of course, you've got to get a perception of distance in relation with the speed that you're traveling or gaining up on.
You'll be going down to Tahoe, I presume?
Yes, I'm going down with a boat. We're going to leave Wednesday morning early, and I'm going to take the little boat with me, my own little boat, and we'll go down as a caravan.
Good. That sounds wonderful. You can look for the checkered life jacket. That'll be Chuck Hickling, and you can look for old Gray Top here. That'll be Al Benson. Thanks an awful lot, fellas. Let me talk to a couple more of the boys here on the Miss Seattle crew. The trend seems to be to Rolls engines, at least in the Miss Seattle camp, because we have 2 brand new ones that were just brought in recently from Canada, and they're busy making the switchover. I wanted to talk to Vern Smith, and I noticed that he's pretty busy over there in the corner. Vern, I wonder if you could drop what you're doing and come out here and let me talk with you a little bit about the Miss Seattle and the work that you did on her last winter, and also these 2 brand new engines that you have and what you expect from them. Taking first things first, let's go back to last winter and how much time you spent away from your wife and family. How long did it take you to change over the decking on Miss Seattle?
Oh, we spent about a month at it, Bill.
Why did you change the decking?
The boat didn't have enough deck pressure on it. It had a tendency to kite last summer. And so we rebuilt the deck with more roll in it to help hold her down. We also decreased the size of the spoiler underneath it to allow more air to get back under the stern.
How has the boat been behaving since then?
Good.
And so far you're fairly well satisfied.
Yeah.
Now what about these 2 Rolls engines?
Well, this is the latest Rolls that's built. It's, as far as I know, later than anything that any of the other boats have. They are using this identical engine in the DC-6s up in Canada now. And we expect them to be very, very good engines. They're built a little bit better than the engines that we have been using in the other boats, as far as I know.
You expect to have these engines ready for Tahoe?
I'm not quite sure.
But you will be at Tahoe, though, won't you?
Oh, yeah, we'll be there. I don't know whether we'll have time to get these engines ready or not. There's quite a bit of rebuild that has to be done on any Rolls.
Vern, what about a 3-bladed prop for Miss Seattle?
We've got them coming.
In other words, you feel that that's the right answer to this boat?
Seems to be. Seems to help her quite a bit.
What do you think about this year in competition now as far as these boats are concerned? Do you think that we've just about seen the maximum speed reach, and from here on in they'll try to get the boat to perform for the entire distance of the race?
Well, it sort of looks that way. The way they've been coming to pieces lately, why, it's going to be pretty rough to get much more speed out of these aircraft engines.
From here on in, it's going to be a little bit of agility in the corners and knowing how to move in that straightaway, eh?
Plus holding them together.
And that's where your job comes in.
That's
Boy,
right.
You've been doing a great job with this Miss Seattle, Vern. Thank you very much.
You're
I know
welcome.
you've got to get back to your work. That's our quick visit with the Miss Seattle and her crew, and meeting, in one case anyway, Jim Osmond, who represents the ownership of some 12 men from the Seattle area of a boat known as Miss Seattle, which formerly was the Slow Motion 5, owned by Stanley Sayers. And so it is that we have visited another camp of the unlimited hydroplane field here in the Pacific Northwest area. This time, the camp of Miss Seattle.